Jacob and I met at like a all Christian Bible based summer camp, and it lasted just a weekend, but it was in 1996, and we were just very young, and Jacob was living in Ohio and I was living in New York, and we had never met before, and I was playing some music by a band that I really loved called Joy Electric, and they were out of Santa Ana, California, and it was just really sort of melancholic synth pop stuff. And like, you know, at the time, like all our friends were really into Nirvana and really into like Hole and like, you know, that sort of alternative garage stuff. And Jacob and I were really into like alternative underground synth pop, essentially, I guess. Synthesizer based music. I see this boy walking across the gymnasium toward me, and I was so used to being made fun of for that. I was just getting ready for someone to say like, can you turn that off, or this is the worst band, or I can't believe you listen to them. But it was the opposite. He couldn't believe that somebody else loved the same band, and so we instantly connected, and we just ended up running off and hanging out the whole weekend together, and we really formed a strong bond. In 2009, I called him. I was living in New York City, and he had moved to Florida, and he just said, and I said, hey, I think, like, you know, we've been talking about making music together our whole lives, literally, but we've never really done it, and maybe we should get serious about it. And so I left New York the next day, and we wrote a song called Let's Go Surfing. I think that was the 5th song we'd ever written, and we put it up online, and, you know, within a week, we were getting approached by labels and managers, and it was just the most surreal, weird thing. We are so used to being the outsider. When you're on all these lists that all these publications are putting out, it's like the best band of this year, or, you know, the top 5 bands you should know, all this stuff. Of course everyone wants to be your best friend, you know, and I was just so naive and just kind of let anyone in, and really got hurt by that in the end, you know, and really like closed up. And that's kind of what Portamento was about. It's just sort of like feeling very heartbroken. And then this new record, Encyclopedia, is very much about like figuring that out and like learning a lesson. Well, we wanted to do something really different, but our main goal was to be really honest. And we were just feeling angry, you know, and upset and hurt and a bit betrayed. You know, our 2 band members just ditched us sort of in the middle of a tour and still haven't told us why. Like, there's just zero explanation, which is very frustrating and hurtful. And we really viewed them as family, you know. I have my whole life of really craving approval from people who don't think I'm good enough, you know? Like people in my biological family, you know, they're like born again Christians, and they, you know, the fact that I'm a homosexual, they, you know, they say they love me, but they can't love that, but that's part of me, you know? So it's like, you know, I'm a firm believer that if somebody doesn't like 5% of you, then they don't like you, you know, because you have to love someone wholly, you know, even with, you know, with the good and the bad, you know. Not that being a homosexual is bad. Really, you know, inspired by, there's like a while back, there's like all these, it's probably still going on, but there's these video humiliations in Russia, like toward like gay kids. So they'll go online and lure these kids into like a fake date, and then these kids will show up and then they'll just like beat them up and tape the whole thing or sexually humiliate them, and like that really made Jacob and I really angry. So we wrote the song Let Me, which is a pretty aggressive, pissed off song, but also empowering, And I never thought we'd be this band, We always, we have songs like Let's Go Surfing and Forever and Ever Amen. Everything had sort of, it was very melancholy and sad, but there was always like this like sliver of hope and sort of a breeziness to the whole thing, and very dream-like, surreal. My favorite music? Oh, God. Oh, well, I've been listening to a lot of like soundtracks. I love music that instantly feels cinematic and has that escape element to it, I really don't, I'm not like obsessed with a certain genre, like, oh, I love like cold wave or I love math rock. It's more, I love great songs. Like the song itself, the instruments that are used to make it are not important to me. It's about like the heart of the song, like the lyric and the melody, and where is it coming from and what does it mean, I love like a timeless, beautiful song like I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton, or Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, or there's these like really Moon River, there's these like songs that are just so big and beautiful and will always be, there's no way they couldn't ever be amazing, even if you just whistled them or played them with a harmonica, like the style is irrelevant, it's really about the heart of the song. And so when we sit down to write, that's kind of a huge thing for us, like would this song translate on just like a piano, or would it sound beautiful with an orchestra behind it, like would this work in all these different sort of settings? So that's an important thing for us. Fashion is, the word fashion always feels kind of funny to me, but how one dresses, especially in like sort of the pop world that I think we're somewhat involved with in an abstract way. I think it's really important, we're such a visual band. We always say that like how people perceive you and how you look is half the battle, how you want to be presented, we live sort of in the musical climate where, I don't know, like the cool guys sort of make fun of bands like the Drums for like us all having the same haircut and us all dressing sort of a certain way and really having a look. But it's always those same guys who would make fun of us for that, who like love the Beatles, who also always had the same haircut and like dressed the same way. And it's like, we live in a climate where it's like really cool to not have an image, it's kind of that abstract image, like, oh, who cares? Like that's really popular right now. But we've just always wanted to come across as, like a band like the Ramones, or even as recently as the Strokes, like just having a real like image is really important. I think that really instructs the music, that really influences the music, This band was formed out of, looking at a photograph. Jacob and I were in Florida, and we found this old photograph of like 4 16-year-old boys in a garage playing guitars and drums. We're like, that is probably the coolest band in the world that no one's ever heard, you know? And we were like, we should call it, this band's called The Drums. Then we thought, like, well, we could call ourselves The Drums, and we could just sort of try to be that band in some weird way. You know, and so we just kind of took on, like, the outfits they were wearing and stuff, and just, that was it, you know? And we've tried to really stick to that. So I do think it's really important.
I can't let you go. Hate you, I wanna date you. I wanna date you. I wanna date you. Hate you, I wanna date you. I wanna date you. I wanna date you. I thought my life would get easier. Instead it's getting harder. Instead it's getting harder. I thought my life would get easier. Instead it's getting darker. Instead it's getting colder. Without you.
Hello, it's Johnny from The Drums, and this is The Minimalista.